Hey gang, it's Joe Platt here, and today we're continuing on our Spirit series. We are, however, going to wrap up the Gen section of the Spirit series, and we're going to do that by talking about Jenever, Jenever, or also Jenever with a G, also known as Dutch Gin and or Holland Gin. Even though it has a variety of names, it all means the same thing. And that is a juniper-based liqueur that is the national and traditional liqueurs of both the Netherlands and Belgium. Jenever is where gin developed from. If you remember the original gin video in this series, we talked about how the British found gin over in the Netherlands, fighting over there, and the local soldiers were drinking Jenever. The British took it back to England and kind of ran with the ball there, kind of made it their own into that London dry gin that's so popular. The term Jenever is a EU protected term, which means it's kind of like cognac or tequila, whatever, that, you know, there's certain ways it has to be produced in certain places. There's rules and regulations to that. Jenever can only be produced in the Netherlands, Belgium, two French departments or two sections in France, and two German federal states. So just in that little area in Northern Europe. Jenever has 11 protected appellations, or AOCs. If you'd seen my wine video section, we talked about AOCs, or appellation control. Basically, a certain grape grown in a certain region, a certain way that was protected. You know, Burgundy wine from Burgundy, Bordeaux wine from Bordeaux, Côte d'Iron, what have you. Piedmont wines from Italy, you know. And Jenever has their own appellations, a total of 11 of them. They include Flanders Artois Jenever from France, and the East Frisia cereal grain Jenever from Germany. So even within the Jenever category, there's little tweaking of that and regionalization of it. And certain styles are done in the Netherlands or Belgium or what have you, or sub-styles, I guess is the best way to put it. A little history on Jenever. It was originally produced from malt wine. Now, what's malt wine? It's basically unhopped beer or just malted barley that got fermented. They would take this malt wine, throw it into a pot still, and they would do two distillations. The first one, they would hit about 50% alcohol by volume or 100 proof. After they ran the first time, they would throw some juniper in there and the other botanicals. Then they throw it back through the still again. And the second run, they generally would get around 35 to 40% alcohol by volume, or 70 to 80 proof. Original Jenever, again, was something produced in a pot still. Wasn't quite a clean a product as like a London Dry. More of that malt flavor kind of carried over into the finished product. Today, there's two main types of Jenever. There's old, O-U-D-E, or just refer to it as old, or young, J-O-N-G-E, or young Jenever. That the difference has nothing to do with aging. One's not unaged, and the other's aged, or one's not 2 years old or 5 years old. It has more to do with how it's produced or how it's distilled. Old Jenever is produced still in the traditional pot still method and can have up to 15 grams of sugar per liter. Now, if you remember the London Dry video, we talked about how it had less than 1 gram of sugar per liter. So quite a bit more sugar, which means obviously more sweetness, but we're going to get more viscosity, or it's going to feel different on the palate, different mouthfeel. Young Jenever goes through now a column still. They progress along as the technology progresses along, and it can only have up to 10 grams of sugar per liter. So less than the old, but again, quite a bit more than the London Dry. How this affects the flavor, the young, because it goes through the column still, has more of a neutral taste, closer to something like vodka, with a slight juniper aroma. It's a cleaner spirit. The old comes off smoother, more of that malt flavor comes off, more aromatic. Sometimes the old does get a little aging in wood that adds a little bit of color and because we're adding some wood notes to maltiness, some people say got a little whiskey flavor to it. So there's a slight difference between the two. The particular Jenever we're going to try today is the Hoffman Authentic Jenever, 40% alcohol by volume or 80 proof. Comes to us from the Netherlands, the Two-Rank Distillery. One of the products Two-Rank produces, something you may have heard of, is the Van Meer line of liqueurs. I know they do a white chocolate that's kind of popular. I want to say they do a brownie. They've got about 8 to 10 different varieties of liqueurs out there. So let's give this a try. All right, just on the nose, if you've ever smelled something that just kind of come off the still, or maybe if you were around someone that made some moonshine or just ran something through the still one time, this has it's less refined than like if you just sniffed a vodka that had been distilled 5 or 6 times. Just that kind of has neutral base. This smells like something a little less filtered, a little less pure, a little wilder. Let's give her a taste. All right, a little more sweetness on the tongue than the London Dry Gin. I'm not going to say this is real sweet though. The juniper is slight. Now I'm kind of interested in what an old Jenever will taste like. Yeah, this just kind of really tastes like kind of reminds me a little bit of what they call white dog in like making bourbons and stuff like that, or whiskeys. You know, that's just, there's a little bit of that, not yeast or britty, but you get a little bit of that. It's just something that's base and hadn't been stripped of flavor, and there's a little bit of that. You can almost taste the grain that the spirit's been distilled from. You get a little bit of that here. Get a little bit of that spirit. 40 proof. It's not hot, but you know there's alcohol in there. I will say, and it would make sense that this, compared to what the old would be, this is something you can make some more cocktails, play around a little bit more. This, if you want to introduce someone to gin, might be the way, because there's less of that juniper, and a lot of people kind of get offended by too much juniper or too much botanicals. This is a softer take on all that. Slight juniper flavor. Not much botanical complexity, however. Body-wise, not too bad. Again, it's sweet, but it's sweeter than that London Dry Gin, but I wouldn't call it sweet or viscous in any way. Well, I hope you liked this video. If you did, please subscribe down below. Also, please like the videos because it lets YouTube know we're putting out good content. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please leave them in the comment section, or you can always contact me on the Twitter page. Till next time, bottoms up.